The Auburn Tigers take down the Houston Cougars and have the best resume in college basketball.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into this special, oh so special, live edition of Locked On Auburn. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. We're dapping it up as always with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend. Darrell, the Auburn Tigers take down the Houston Cougars in Houston, 74-69 in a final 5 to 6 minute stretch that screamed experience, that screamed poise, that screamed, hey, we are one of, if not the best team in all of college basketball.
Absolutely. I need to get this out of the way. I know I promised a light show, but we are starting this so late. The sun's probably going to come up in a minute. So, we got sunrise service church that we got to get to. But here's the deal.
Tahaad Pettiford, Darrell.
Yeah. He was baptized, keeping with the theme tonight. I'm going to tell you right now, this was not a neutral site game, okay? This is Auburn going on the road against the number one team in Ken Pom in the country, who, by the way, I was shocked when I heard that stat had beaten Auburn like 7 times in a row, which I don't even remember them playing other than the tournament. Beating a team like that in Houston, overcoming some adversity, some things that we could have looked at the end of the game and said, oh my gosh, what if? And yet they did not let that matter. They didn't make it make a difference. And so, look, this was one of those games, Zach, that we talked about, said, hey, Auburn fans, if you lose it and you play well, don't panic. This is a tough non-conference schedule. They're a top 3 team. No, this ain't upwards basketball.
No,
Auburn
sir.
went and took it from them on the road. This is one of the biggest regular season wins in Auburn basketball history.
Yep.
Period.
Absolutely. And the way they did it, where they did it, and who stepped up, I think, is so iconic too, because you have Janai Broome, the established player. Many folks had him as one of the best players in college basketball coming into the season, potential SEC Player of the Year candidate. 20 points, 10 of 15 shooting, and if he didn't attempt any threes, his stats would actually look insane. They would look historic if he just decided to not shoot any threes.
And hit free throws.
Or make one free throw, right? But then you had Tahaad Pettiford, who just, after going 0 for 4 in the opener, just exploding. And then also the steady, efficient play of Chaney Johnson, who did what he needed to do to keep Auburn in it in the first half, and then did everything he needed to do off ball in the second half. It's just what an incredible team win. An incredible team win against Houston.
If you think about the PTSD Auburn's had with its freshman point guards that are, very hyped the last couple years, for Pettiford to make a statement like this, I get it, against Vermont at home in a blowout is one thing, but showing up on the road in this kind of game as a freshman against the number one, Ken Pom team in the that's huge. And he was running point during that stretch, right? We thought he was going to be a hybrid guard, an off-the-ball guard, Pagisabi. I don't know how, if you're Bruce Pearl, he's point guard. He's got to be point guard 1 going forward. What else does he have to prove? He went on the road in the hostilest of environments against one of the best teams in the country, and basically him and Broome won that game for you. Now, Chaney Johnson in the first half kept them afloat. He had 11 of Auburn's 14 points.
Yeah, well, and that's when points were super hard to come by for both sides. Just the defense was suffocating.
Chad Baker-Mazara in a 2-minute stretch had 7 points, but they were 7 of the biggest points. He hit the 3 to put them ahead.
Great point.
Hit the little runner in the lane after Houston regained the lead, which was a big answer when you felt like, okay, this is it, and then hit 2 big free throws. So he had, doing my math here, 7 points in the last 2 minutes that were huge. The score sheet doesn't reflect how big those 7 points were.
Ken Palm just updated. And according to the metric that everyone deems the most important, the most valuable, Auburn is the number 1 team in the country.
That's unbelievable. Well, I mean, and they should be, because again, that game wasn't in Neville. No. It wasn't on a neutral court in South Dakota somewhere, where next to Mount Rushmore, like last year.
Yep.
It was in Houston at the Toyota Center. And I get there was a lot of Auburn fans there because it seats,
you can hear them too.
Seats so many people, but they outflanked Auburn on that. So just a huge wonder. I know it's late, but I don't know how I'm going to sleep tonight. This is one of the most.
There's 1,100 people hanging out with us, Darrell, talking about Auburn basketball.
Yeah,
like let's go.
Let's go. We're going to be here. We're going to be here for. If you're here with us, we're going to be here for you. We're not going to be soft tonight. And that's the thing is. Again, I don't want to overemphasize and ever throw in the towel or be defeatist about a game. But when you look at this and you go, well, if you drop this one, and it's such a brutal stretch. Auburn just got one in their back pocket that I don't think nobody expected to get.
Yeah.
And they did it with 9 players on a bench. And I'm going to tell you something else, too, because I'm going to go ahead and address this right here, right now. This whole plane story that came out and the altercation didn't mean crap to this team. Nothing, zero, zilch. It wasn't a distraction. This team looked tight. This team was not fractured. And, oh, by the way, he got to play 9 instead of 11 and gave some of his studs more minutes. So they answered the question about that little ballyhoo overblown thing that happened on the plane. I know it's not a good look, but it meant nothing. It was a blip on the radar, just like it was when they had to turn the plane around, period.
So, the thing that's so surprising about this team to me is how quickly they look like this. I picked Houston to win this game just because Houston's experience, they've had more time together than Auburn Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And this team looks like they've been playing together for months. Years, maybe. I mean, even these true freshmen. I guess there's just one true freshman tonight, right. But it's just incredible.
That's
the job that Bruce Pearl has done with his team already.
Let
me say this one more time. With the number 1 team in all of college basketball.
There you go. The difference was they mirrored each other. If you look at the statistics, they were so similar. Their styles of play, the way they guard. Very, very veteran, led team. The difference is they didn't have a 5-star freshman, and we did. That's it. Everything else canceled each other out. The bigs on the block. Remember, I told you that Roberts guy was going to be a problem with Broom, and they went at each other all night. Uzan or Uzman, whatever the crap that guy's name is, the guy from Oklahoma. The backcourt, Cryer, who's been there since Clinton was president. I mean, they've matched up so well with when you looked at the components of both teams, except they didn't have him, and him is Pettiford. Period.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about this is, like, obviously Houston's one of the best teams in all of college basketball. They got off 8 more shots than we did. I mean, think about that. That's crazy. But this is a team that's going to score a lot of points this year. A very efficient offense. They talked about how they're the number 1 defense in college basketball and then an extremely efficient offense. They shot 41% of the floor from the floor. Auburn's defense forced Houston to shoot 41% from the floor.
That's the best defensive team I think Auburn's going to see.
Yeah.
They guard you as good as anybody in the country.
Yep.
And to shoot in the high 40s against that team is comparable to shooting in the high 50s, low 60s against somebody else. I'm just being honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think Houston had more free throw attempts, hit more free throws, and I think their 3-point shooting percentage at one point, maybe late in the game it wasn't, but was a little bit better than Auburn's.
Yeah, so they shot 3 more free throws. They made 3 more free throws. And they shot 38% from 3. We shot 30% from 3. We also shot 10 more threes. We shot 23. They shot 13. Just different styles.
Different styles. And, I get – and I'll say this. I think the refs, other than the missed offensive goaltending call, if Auburn, let me say it now because I hinted at it. If Auburn had lost this game by 2 points, I would have had a hard time sleeping because of the 2 missed dunks, the 3-pointer right before the end of the half,
right,
and the blatantly blown call. For those that are listening and watching, I want to make sure they understand the explanation. They called offensive goaltending on Houston in the first half. They have the chance to look at that at the next timeout. They deemed that the ball wasn't in the cylinder, so they gave Houston the 2 points. Yep. But what they missed was it wasn't offensive goaltending. It was basket interference because the dude's hand was on the rim. And you can't do that, even if the ball's not in the cylinder. Once your hand's on the rim, it's basket interference. They missed it. And there's pictures that show it. So I get it. Auburn overcame all that and still won. But it would have been just a crying shame if 2 dunks and a missed offensive goaltending call cost you the game. That being said, they said, okay, that doesn't matter. We'll play right through that. And that is just so big. Big.
Yep. It's huge. It's huge. I mean, seriously, one of the larger moments in the history of the regular season of Auburn basketball.
And I will say non-conference, right? Because, I mean, there's some wins like over Kentucky and stuff like that propelled them to the number. But with a sold-out Neville, non-conference, this is, I can't remember. You have to go way back to think of a bigger non-conference win than this. Because even in some of these tournaments that Auburn played in, they lost to Duke, right, by a couple of them. They couldn't get over the hump. And so the Connecticut, the UConn game, they lost that. So this, to me, as far as a non-conference, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head, I mean, it's 11:40. Maybe someone came into Neville in a preseason type scenario, not a preseason, but a non-conference scenario. But on the road like this, they weren't ranked number 4 in the country. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. And I mean, just all of the stuff hovering around it with obviously, the plane having to go back, leaving 2 guys at home, the line growing in Houston's favor, and everybody saying, Auburn blew it. We can't have anything nice.
Well,
we go out and put out that performance. And once again, can't stress it enough. According to Ken Palm, the number 1 team in all of college basketball. What's this mean going forward, Darrell? We discuss that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time's the best place to buy tickets. Darrell, you buy tickets exclusively using Game Time. Same here. It's hard to get tickets to Auburn basketball games, but the best way to do it is to go to Game Time.
Shout out to our listener, Bryce, who tagged us in a tweet and showed us where his seats were and said he used Game Time. So thank you, Bryce. You get a shout out for that, Bryce. And
do you think Bryce had a good time at the game?
I mean, look, after walking out of Toyota Center right now, Bryce is like, that was the best money I've ever spent in my life.
He's probably sprinting to his hotel room to watch this, and we appreciate it. Hopefully you made it in time, Bryce. Hopefully you made it in time. Hey, download the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Darrell, what time is it?
Game time!
The Auburn Tigers defeat Houston 74-69, giving them the best resume in all of college basketball. The moment for me that it was like, okay, what's Auburn going to do and how are they going to respond was Houston made a 3. It was like, okay, Auburn had gotten close a few times and then Houston makes a 3. I think it put them up 5 or 6 points.
I mean, you said dagger?
Yeah. You and I'm like, that may have been it. And then you sent me a text a few minutes later. Nope, we were wrong. Thank goodness we were.
That's the biggest takeaway for me when you talk about what this means going forward. Number one, within the framework of the game, they were able to answer, counter-punch, so to speak. Nice play on words. And answer and come back and trade, shot for shot. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, even with the self-inflicted things they did that they could have hung their heads a little bit, they overcame those, the missed dunks. And then this team shows me that they can put away distractions and overcome off the court distractions and go out and play at a high level. Reminds me, I'm not saying they are the same level or going to win a national championship. I'm making a comparison of what the 2010 Auburn football team did with all the off the field Cam Newton stuff. They were able to just put that away, compartmentalize, and play the game. That's big. Going forward, knowing you can overcome a serious distraction like that, and it met not only the distraction, the mental aspect of it. Zach, you played sport. It messed up their whole routine and their whole timing when they got in, when they started their walkthrough, all that stuff that we know is so structured. All that didn't faze them.
Yeah,
that's what it means to me going forward. Is you can throw some stuff their way, and they're just gonna. It's not even going to faze them. They're going to shoo it away and do what they have to do.
Yep. No question about it. And this was something that I think you and I talked about it. I talked about it with somebody this week. So, okay, when we were talking about it in the context of the two freshmen, but the freshman that played tonight and traveled with the team, Tahaad Pettiford, like, okay, he goes out and he's 0 for 4 against Vermont. And now you're going to play in the biggest stage of your career. Like, how do you respond? What does that look like? And you could have said the same, like, about Pegues. He probably played in some big games at Furman, but like, this was probably the biggest game that he's played in his collegiate career. Miles Kelly, like, I'm sure he's played at Duke and at North Carolina, but you've got a number next to your name now. You've got expectations. Like, a lot of these guys are playing in the largest stage in their careers. Like, who steps up? And the answer is, like, when the lights are on, Tahaad Pettiford is a dude you want to have the basketball. And we've said that about so many of these highly touted kids that have come on over the last 5-6 years. And only a few of them have really popped off. We've been like, oh, okay, well, we've had to like almost make excuses for them of like, okay, we'll just give them time, or man, they're going to be a great second year player, or, it's just taking them time to acclimate, and then they transfer and it just doesn't work out. I don't think we're going to have to do that with Tahaad. I think he is the real deal.
Zach, this may sound like it's hyperbole or whatever, but
say it.
It matters where you play your high school basketball. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm an old dude. You know that. I've watched a lot. Jersey kids are built different. They just are. The Hurleys, the Jersey kids are built different, and how they respond to pressure and how tough they are and in seizing the moment. They just are. It's the same thing with when they had the New York City kids that that played. There's a certain area of the country like that's just that toughness, that's the nerves of steel. Again, the Jersey kids are built different, and he showed that tonight. They don't blink. I mean, they're not phased. They're tough, and they don't shrink from the moment. And I think sometimes you get a little bit protected and isolated and pampered with what program you play in, and not a Jersey kid. Right. And I think that showed itself tonight.
Yeah, I think so.
They're just built different, like the commercial says.
And there were so many opportunities down the stretch for them to, like, I don't want to necessarily put it on Auburn, like, look at the negative aspect of it, but there were chances for, like, Houston to come back and win, whether that was Auburn giving it away or Houston taking, advantage of the opportunity. And they just did, like, Auburn just held serve. They just held serve with them. They got in the situation, they scratched and clawed and got into that situation. And then you saw, like, Chaney Johnson had a few big rebounds. Janai Broom, like, was so good at just kind of, like, somehow finding space in the middle of the key. I don't know if you're a Houston fan. I can't imagine how frustrating that was. And then when they'd find him, that left hook or whatever that he had, like, it just went in.
The drop step. The drop step, that first step where
I don't know how you defend that.
You can't defend it.
I don't know how you defend that.
If you try to reach around and block that with that drop step and holding the ball out here with the left hand, you foul. Do you have the stats pulled up still? I want to make a point that I think is very important.
Tell me.
How many offensive rebounds did Houston end up with for the game?
15.
Okay. At halftime, they had 10.
Okay.
And that was a big reason why Auburn was down 3. I felt like Auburn would have been up, but they were giving away too many second chance points.
Right.
And so they cleaned that up some and cut that down in half. Now, sometimes late in the game when you're chucking up threes with there's 20 seconds left, that can happen. I get that. The ball kicks out back to you, but they cleaned that up a little bit. And I think that was a big thing in the second half because you cannot continue that trend if you want to win a close game. You just can't.
Here's the Janai Broom stat I want to talk about. So he was 10 of 15 from the floor, and he shot 4 threes. He didn't make any of them. If you take away his threes, he was 10 for 11. What?
So that needs to be – I guess it's hard when you're coaching a kid like that's an All-American that has hit some threes, but I think that's a learning or a coaching opportunity. Saying, you want to go into the league and go in the first 2 rounds. You were 10 of 11, dude, if you stop shooting threes. So if it's there and if it's open and nobody's guarding you, but they weren't sagging on him. They were coming out on him. And then when they finally moved him, if you notice, Zach, they moved him from outside getting the ball at the top of the key where you do that, high-low thing, and he's coming up.
They like pops out and
off the ball. Yeah, right. They stopped doing that and leaving him on the block. Right. And that's when he started drop-stepping people and started just taking their manhood. And Pettiford and Chad Baker-Mazar were finding him. They did it like 3 times in a row, and Houston just wouldn't adjust. And the number one defense in college basketball wasn't going to adjust to Janai Broom. And Fran Fraschilla, the color commentator, one of the best in the business. One of the best commentators. You think he likes Kelvin Sampson at all? Yeah, but he loves us too. He loved him some Kelvin Sampson, which is fine. Yeah, he's a good coach. But he loves us. I mean, and he said that we went into Broom 3 times. He said, keep going inside. Keep going inside. Why not? Broom. Yeah, and totally. They took him away from being away from the basket and moved him back inside and let him post instead of getting the ball in that high-low ball screen. Yeah, because they were trying to set that pick and roll thing and pick and pop. Remember, last year Auburn couldn't do that because Aiden Holloway reacted too slow after the Broom would set the screen. He couldn't get around his guy. Pettiford doesn't have that problem. I mean, it works. Yeah, you can definitely feel you can see that he feels the game different than Aiden did last year. No question. Yep. No question. Oh my goodness. All right. So when you look at the top teams, according to KenPom, which is like the stat that everybody wants to care about the most, which I'm totally okay with this year. So you beat Houston, who's the number 2 team. You play Duke, who's the number 4 team. You could play UConn, right? I'm correct on that. Like you could play UConn, who's the number 5 team. You play Alabama, obviously, they're 6. And then Iowa State is 10th. I know. Purdue is 11. It's if you come out of that gauntlet and only lose 2, you're a top 5 team. I mean, there's just no doubt. Well, I think right now, as it stands right now. Where do they vote us now? Well, how far can we move up from 11 in the polls? It's a small sample size, but let's not underplay what happened Wednesday night too against a NCAA tournament team who you beat 54. So that's going to matter because they know Vermont's perpetually in the tournament from the American Athletic Conference, and then you piggyback that with this tonight. I think Auburn's 4th when the poll comes out. I think Auburn is 4. Yeah. Yeah, because the interesting thing is, I don't think they're going to want to drop Houston that much, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't. Whoever lost this game wasn't going to be impacted much negatively, and they shouldn't have been. But they can't. I don't think they can put us behind Houston. Well, right? They shouldn't, but that one jackleg voter that always screws us. Oh, there'll be a few people that put us 18 still or something crazy. I want to know where Matt, the joke clown Norlander is, the guy that put Auburn. Is that who that was? Yeah, at 20, the guy that when we did that show and he put Auburn at 27 in his poll 2 weeks ago, and was all over reporting this airplane incident yesterday. I bet you go to his Twitter feed now and it's crickets. So anybody that's watching, it's Matt Norlander. Find his Twitter page and blow him up.
Don't feel like you have to do that. Don't feel like you have to do that.
I don't mean it in an ugly, but just let him know who won the game tonight. Check it out.
Was that the guy who was like, I just got a feeling.
Yeah,
I just got a feeling they're not going to be good.
And he said, ask Arkansas fans I got a feel. Remember, he had no metrics at all. Just every once in a while, the team underachieves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Norlander.
Quit saying his name.
No,
all right, so
I got to source it.
Sure. Yeah, you're just quoting him. That's fine. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
So coming up this upcoming week, Auburn plays Kent State in Neville, and they play North Alabama in Neville before heading to Maui for the Maui Invitational.
That's a perfect scenario right now because you still play a lot of people. You keep your edge. You don't let down. You don't have that exhale game. You get after it, but you should win both of those games easily.
Sure.
And you should be able to play a lot of people and keep fresh legs before you make that trip to Maui. So these are perfectly timed games, and you're playing at home. Mm-hmm. So it couldn't have set up any better than it is right now.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And neither of these teams are like perennial, like winners of their conference or anything, right? Like,
no, they're not like Vermont or
not a Vermont team. Right.
Yeah. Somebody that wins that mid-major and is in the tournament, that kind of thing.
I think the most interesting thing about these games is going to be who plays the most minutes, and does Auburn play 11 guys instead of 9, if you catch my drift?
Well, look, if there's ever a time to have a 3-game suspension, this is it.
The time to do it.
You sit them the next 2 and then take them to Maui.
Like,
make sure one sits in business class and one sits in regular class. Separate them on the plane, for the love of God.
Yeah, goodness gracious. All right, who else had a game tonight that we're not talking about? Who had an under the radar game? Because like a lot of it came in like, Chad Baker-Mazara's points late.
Yeah.
Janai obviously was great. Tahaad was great. Chaney did his, like, once again, we said if Chaney scores 11 every night, like Auburn's going to win almost every basketball game that they play. But outside of that, like
nobody did. I mean, there was the occasional 4-point night, 3-point night. Miles Kelly banked one in.
So Pegues had 2, Denver had 4, Dylan had 2, an electric 2 points for Dylan Cardwell. That's steal. I'm like, is he going to dribble it? Is he going to? I don't love him putting the ball on the floor, but okay, it worked. Yeah. I was very pleasantly shocked by that. Chris Moore had 2, and then Miles Kelly had 5. And it's like, okay.
Some of those guys did a really, really good job when we go back and watch the film with off the ball, how they guarded and how they like Cryer had a hard time. LJ Cryer had a hard time getting off for a while. This is a dude that played at Baylor. He's played big-time college basketball, 5th-year senior. And Auburn did a really good job on him in the first half, and I think that's Denver Jones who drew him. So, those things
just kept waiting for Denver to pop tonight.
Yeah.
Did you feel that with anybody, or were you just kind of like, give it to Janai, give it to Tahaad? I kept waiting for Denver to get, just to splash one from deep. And he only shot 2 threes. He wasn't like trying to, shoot himself out of it or anything like that. But I was a little surprised by that.
I think there's only so many basketballs that can go around. And I love the strategy that when Pettiford and Broom were eating, just keep feeding them. I mean, there's no reason to spread the basketball around, get cute, try to distribute it, go with the hot hand until they stop it. And the reason why Auburn won this game is the way Broom, Chad Baker-Mazara, and Pettiford played in the last 5 minutes of the basketball game, period.
Yeah.
And, that's do what you got to do. And the hot hand, and I loved how they were playing off each other. Those 3 had a real nice chemistry and were really, really kind of talking to each other and strategy. Yeah. The one play that Broom got the dunk, Fran Fraschilla made a point to say what a great play by the freshman because he waited the perfect amount of time for Broom to get clearance. That is pretty heady stuff for chemistry between a freshman and a senior that have not played together but 2 games. That's important.
There's a lot of people in here saying that Auburn is number 1 in KenPom. We talked about that for like 20 minutes. It's very exciting. Very, very exciting stuff. No question about it. No question about it. I guess this is for you, Dap. Robert says Matt Norlander giving mad props to Auburn on X. He knows.
Well, then I am going to turn around and give Matt Norlander credit and mad props to him. If you criticize, you also have to compliment. Fair is fair. So good job, Matt Norlander. Props to you for recognizing that and admitting you made a mistake and being man enough to post that. I respect that.
Yeah. Hey, for the 1,500 people here that are listening to Auburn basketball at midnight, just drop where your favorite team is ranked according to KenPom in the live chat. And if you're watching this later, comment that. Where is your team ranked in KenPom? I'm genuinely curious. Because my favorite team is number 1 in college basketball, Darrell.
And you know what's fun about this? Tomorrow, obviously, I know we're talking college basketball. There's a slate of NFL games, but there's also some really good college basketball games to watch tomorrow. How fun is it to watch college basketball when your team just whacks somebody on the road and you're number 1 in KenPom and you know it's going to come up?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You sit back Sunday afternoon, you're watching the games and you're like, really? My team's 2-0 is probably ranked 1 in KenPom. So that's kind of fun.
My team could probably beat your team.
Yes. That's fun.
What a feeling. What a feeling. All right. Who do you want to see? What do you want to see differently moving forward? Like, I mean, we mentioned kind of the slow performance from a few of these guys, but a lot of the guys that didn't score, they didn't shoot that much. So it's not like anybody was cold. It's not like Pegues was cold or he shot it twice from the floor and he scored 2 points. It's like, okay. It's not like anybody was wildly inefficient. Is there anybody on this team that you want to see shoot it more?
Kelly.
Miles Kelly.
Yeah, I think Auburn's going to need him.
He battled foul trouble
in
a lot
big game.
too. So
he did.
Yeah. How many minutes did he play?
He's going to need to be that dude.
Like 21 minutes, more than I thought.
But he's going to need to be that dude at some point in a close game against a really good team that in the last 3 minutes takes over as well. Like Pettiford did, Miles Kelly needs to do that in a game that matters, that's close when you're not beating somebody 40. 5-point game, 3-point game. Oh, Kelly's hit 2 or 3 threes in a row. That needs to happen. I want to see that. And I want to see Pegues get more involved. I mean, this is a kid that was a really good player at Furman. I get it. Pettiford probably has outplayed him now, and he may come off the bench. I mean, you leave the coaching staff no choice with the way he played. But I'd like to see Pegues gain some confidence. Again, I apologize. I will say this and address it. Can't do a light show at midnight when everyone in my house is asleep and the sun's going to come up here. We're doing it so late. So there you go.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I got to wake up for church in like 3
People
hours.
People are just drilling me. I don't care if it's midnight.
I mean, you made a big promise. Like
I did.
You did say if Auburn won, that's probably why most people are here. They're waiting.
But I did not think that the game was going to be over at midnight, and I didn't think that the stage crew was going to not be available.
Stage crew. I love it. I love it. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out to midnight to talk a little Auburn basketball. I mean, super, super cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say. So we'll be back when Auburn takes on Kent State, November 13th. So what day of the week is that? When is that? What is the 13th? Wednesday at 7:00. So we'll go live, around 9:15 or so, probably.
Yes.
And of course, Locked On Auburn is available every single day. Like the video and subscribe. Thank you. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dap. And then, man, we're going to have fun this year doing these.
It's going to be a fun year. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks again. Please like the video again. Please subscribe. Thank you. And we'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.